Nightshade by Paul K. I couldn't have been older than 5. There was a big family that lived around the corner from us, and my mom was a good friend of theirs. It was common for my older brother and I to play in the backyard there, which was pretty cool. It had a huge garage full of electrical stuff, old pinball machines and toys. We weren't allowed in there. Getting my brother to lift me up to look through a shattered window pane was enough, though. The structure created a passage with its east wall and a fence laced with almost unbearably sour grapes. The south wall, I know my town's directions, hid a portion of the grassy area at the back, where a tetherball pole, with no ball and only a string, had once been. There'd been a garden there too, left to weeds and wildflowers, and eventually something worse. The big family's third oldest, let's call him David, had been odd since forever. My somewhat hazy memories of him include throwing toads as high and as far as he could, and giggling maniacally after the thud of their bodies impacted the road. He had a bag full of them for this purpose. He was at least 5 years older than I, tall, lean, and strong for his age. Those toads went very high and far. I think I cried about them. David's older brothers made him stop, or maybe I imagined they did. He also enjoyed making torture devices for his G.I. Joe action figures. The only one I can recall with any clarity in his disgustingly cluttered room was like a miniature electric chair. He was mad about it because it didn't work the way he wanted. Something about a motor burning out. David was a black sheep in a family of them. All of those kids were odd in their own way and had trouble fitting in with the other neighborhood kids. David's siblings kept their distance from him. His older brothers chased him away from games and would kick his ass if he went near their younger brothers and sister. I thought it was kind of mean. My older brother never treated me like that. Little me, it turned out, had developed sympathy for David. So when he beckoned me from behind the garage, I followed. He had made a narrow pathway through the tall weeds and wildflowers, and cleared a space in the back corner of the yard. There were a number of fruit-bearing plants there. They were organized, cultivated, by him. He began to eat some berries and told me how good they were. Then he pressed one into my palm. I ate it, and couldn't tell you what it tasted like. I don't really remember. He laughed and ate more. The rest is hazy until everyone started looking for us. My mom was there suddenly, and my older brother tossed David into the weeds. Nobody got mad about that, not even his own mother, who I remember looking kind of ill. In my hand were more berries. How many did you eat? How many? My mom was afraid. He's eaten a lot, David said. He was standing amidst the wild growth and had a weird look on his face, like intense, nostrils flaring, fists clenched. My mother jammed her fingers down my throat and pulled fast. She did it a few times until I'd thrown up. Then she mixed around and examined the vomit with a stick. There was only one berry in there. David had lied. I recall him grinning while I cried. The berry, however, was deadly nightshade. David had made his own garden of death. Years later, my dad told me there had been currants, which is what David must have been popping into his mouth, wild parsnips, hemlock, and a white flower called the devil's trumpet. All of them could have killed me if I ate them, but only the nightshade had a berry that looked appealing and tasted sweet enough. One probably wouldn't have killed me, but 2 more for sure, if he hadn't been caught. Library books on gardening and identifying poisonous plants were found in David's room. He also had a small cache of seeds. He'd been planning this for a long time. I'm not really sure what punishment followed. I think he was grounded. Nobody seems to remember. We didn't visit as much after that, and when we did, David wasn't there. My parents didn't take their eyes off me. Neither did my big brother. The relationship between families was never the same. They moved not long after. David didn't end up where you'd think. I never saw him again, but I heard through my mother he'd gotten married and had a few kids. I saw a picture of them once. Nice family. But there was something off. All 4 of them were smiling, but only he seemed happy. He had his hands on his children's shoulders, and they gripped his forearms. His tiny wife was encircled by his limbs, trapped in the center. Maybe it was just my experience with him, or my bias. Maybe he grew out of his psychopathy. Or maybe we'll be reading his kids' stories next.